Hey guys and gals, Raf here from B&C Camera. Sunsets are dreamy and romantic. However, it can become tricky when choosing which camera settings you should use. If you aren't a professional photographer, you will encounter a few camera setting obstacles. This quick little video guide will go over the best camera settings for sunsets. Just remember, this is a guide, not a rule. Use these settings as a starting point and experiment to get the shot you envision. As a quick little heads up, we did cover in a bit more detail on shooting during the golden hours of the day. Be sure to check that one out if you'd want more specific details with shooting not only during sunsets, but sunrises as well too. Overall, the best camera settings for sunset are: set your camera to manual mode, or M mode. Select your ISO to 100, but feel free to adjust accordingly based off of the position of the sun in the sky. Set your shutter speed to around 1/30th of a second or longer depending on your exposure. Use a wide-angle lens in the ranges of either 18 to 24 millimeters. Set your lens to manual focus. Choose an aperture of around f/16. But again, based off of the position of the sun, feel free to open that up when necessary. Select daylight white balance, and when possible, use a tripod. Alrighty, how to set up your camera for sunset photography. First of all, you're going to want to shoot in RAW. The first recommendation is to shoot your photographs in RAW format. Have your white balance set to capture sunset colors. With RAW file formats, you can adjust any shadow areas during post-processing. Typically, with sunset photographs, the lower your sun gets, your foreground will pick up more shadows than you would like. As previously mentioned, use a tripod when possible. You want to eliminate the risk of a blurred photo. To do this, you're going to need to use a tripod. Having a tripod on hand guarantees clear shots, especially when you're using long exposure times. Even the slightest movement will ruin your photograph. For daylight white balance presets, a surefire way to capture the beautiful yellows and oranges in the sky is to shoot with daylight white balance presets. Never choose auto white balance. When you do this, you will get dull colors, and it will also flatten your image. Again, this is just a guideline, but if you plan on bringing the image in post-production, it's totally fine to shoot in auto white balance as well too. You can go ahead and boost up the colors and change it up accordingly. Shooting in daylight is great if you're just wanting to take a snap of the photo, transfer it over to your phone, and post it over to social media as quick as possible. Of course, choosing manual mode. You want to have control over how your camera captures your scene. One of the reasons shooting automatic is difficult with sunsets is the ever-changing colors. With the sun slowly going down, each second will give you different colors in your scenery. So, to get the most accurate exposure for your current shot, you need to set your camera manually. Set a narrow aperture. Like most landscape photography, you'll want to get maximum depth of field. To do this, set a narrow aperture, and anything between f/16 to f/22 will work great. Inversely though, you can also dial down your aperture to open it up a bit further to let in as much light as possible. This is ideal if you're noticing that you're sitting fairly high up in your ISO ranges and would like to bring it down a bit to reduce noise. Try shooting with a graduated ND filter. It can be pretty tricky to photograph vibrant colors when you have shadows in the foreground. Invest in a good ND filter to help balance these contrasts. An ND filter is a piece of thin glass that is partially darkened. You mount this filter onto your camera, which will help you get the best exposure by limiting the amount of light from your sky. You don't have an ND filter? Try exposure blending or stacking. One of the best techniques to help with your colors is exposure blending or stacking. When you do this, shoot your scene twice. Your first shot should be exposed to the sky, and your second shot should be exposed to the land. Once done, you can combine the two images during post-processing. When you blend these photos, you will get a fantastic photo highlighting the best colors and range. If you haven't done so, try HDR mode. Most cameras currently have an HDR mode, and this mode will help balance out the exposures from the sky and foreground. Alrighty, consider investing in an off-camera flash if you're going to have somebody in the foreground. A wise decision is to use an off-camera flash if you have a person in your scene, and this flash will help reduce or flat out eliminate any unwanted shadows on their face. Expose for the sky. You want to keep your focus on the sky. That's where the mesmerizing colors will come from, and that's why you'll be setting your exposure for the sky. Now, when do you want to underexpose or overexpose your background? Now, when it comes to underexposing your background, when using a flash, that's when you're going to want to underexpose it. Use a fast shutter speed for this. When you want to overexpose your background, overexpose your photograph to brighten your subject when you don't have a flash. This is where you're going to want to slow the shutter speed down instead. Check your histogram. And no, not your Instagram. Go into your settings and pull up your histogram. Another name for this is your exposure graph. You will see the balances of shadows, midtones, and highlights when you open this. This will help you with exposure so you can see how balanced everything is. And with that, it's looking like the sun is hanging mighty low for this video. Now remember, sunsets are fun and also very much beautiful sights to behold, so why not capture them? Shooting sunsets can prove to also be challenging because of the limited amount of time that they exist. So plan accordingly and check the times when the sun sets. Also, try to be out there about half an hour to an hour early just to lean on the safe side. Hope you found this video enjoyable and most of all insightful. If you did, be sure to give us a like and subscribe so we can continue creating fun and informative content such as this video. Thanks again for tuning into this one. Raf here from B&C Camera, signing off.